Welcome back to the show, everybody. Before I introduce my guest, I want to give a shout out to All Black Everything Performance Energy Drink, the official energy drink of the Athletic Fortitude podcast, available in Walmart, Mayer, and select GNC franchise locations. Again, can't speak highly enough. It has powered me through this entire road trip. It has kept me going. It's kept my energy high, and it's quite frankly, it is the best tasting energy drink I've ever had. Now, to introduce my guest, Amelia Keene. She is a former figure skater, current U.S. figure skating judge, and a real estate agent for Keller Williams Sports and Entertainment, and Las Vegas TV host of the American Dream TV network.
Yes.
How you doing today?
I'm doing great, Colin. Thank you for inviting me on your program.
No, it's my pleasure. And something I want to lead off with here, it's something that struck a chord with me, is one of your mottos of just get up.
Oh, yes.
Because it's something that I actually preach to my young daughter. I say, I don't care if you cry. I don't care like if you're hurting. I don't care if you're screaming. Just get back up. Mm-hmm. And it's something that's really important to me when I look at resilience and fortitude and just, learning how to cope with adversity when things hurt is to just get up.
Correct.
And
really is a life skill and a life metaphor for life.
It is.
How to overcome challenges and keep going.
Yes. And that like the emphasis on the get up piece, because you can experience emotions, you can have your feelings, but the important part is to just get up, acknowledge those feelings, acknowledge those emotions, and keep going. And that came for you from a pretty emotional part with your father,
yes,
having polio. So I'd love to hear you kind of touch on that and why it's important to you.
Well, he was an amazing role model and an inspiration to me and to everybody. My dad came from a big sports family in Toronto, and he had three brothers that were all very big in athletics, but supposedly the brothers said that he was the big athlete. He was the one that was going to go in the NHL. And sadly, he got polio. They didn't, thankfully, but he did, and it ended his dreams. But his entire life, you didn't know my dad had polio. He never complained about it. He never felt sorry for himself, and he would tell people that he had just had a horse fall on him, or that he had hurt his knee, and he never dwelled on anything. And so I was raised with that mentality, but also him being part of the hockey world, and his brother went into he was Major League Baseball for Canadian, and then before he passed, it was the Chief Scout of the Toronto Blue Jays. I've always been surrounded my whole family with that motto of get back up, just keep going. And being in skating, you're constantly falling down. And you have to what? Get back up again. And also, if you're competing and doing a performance, if you fall down, you have to get back up and finish. And I think he helped instill in that to me.
Yeah, I was going to say, what a phenomenal parallel for the world that you entered and the world that you're currently in is the skating of falling down. How do you take into account the feelings and emotions of when you were competing and use that as a judge now at the forefront of your mind? Like, okay, these are people who are training hard, competing hard. How do you use your experience as a skater when you're judging?
Oh, that's a wonderful question. And also it's very resonant for me. I just got back from Salt Lake City where there was a competition. So not only was I a judge observing the skaters and competing, I knew what it felt like. I knew how they felt before they got on the ice. I knew how they felt when they didn't skate well or when they did skate well. And also, you want to err on side of the skater, the athlete. You want to support them and not penalize them too much if they've had a hard day. And you know when they have, and they can see it in their face, and we can see it too. I think me being an athlete myself, having gone through the competitive process, and also being an actress in New York and going on auditions, and you get a job or you don't get a job, or you're not tall enough, or you're not small enough, or you don't have brown hair or whatever, it gives you a chance to understand what the athletes are going through. And I think sometimes I'm known as a softie a bit because of that, because we actually had a situation yesterday with one of the best elite athletes there was in the middle of this fabulous, spectacular performance and had a terrible fall and had to stop her performance and ended up having to withdraw. So she ended up not winning the event, and we had to help her off the ice. So you feel terrible for them. But you know what? She got up on her own.
That's awesome.
We didn't have to go get her and pick her up. She did that herself, and you know what? You really respect her for that.
Now, the role of judge, do you get to communicate with the skaters at all?
We can do what we call critiques, or if they ask us a question, we can speak with the coach and the parents, not with the skater by themselves, obviously. But we can offer some advice, or if they ask us something, we can give them a critique about their performance or something that we saw that they might want to think about, whether it's a technical thing, or for me as an actor, I like to talk more about their performance and how they present themselves and how they project their performance. So they sell it, and they sell the performance they give to us, because their scores will be better too. One of the most famous athletes today is Jason Brown, who may not have the big quad jumps and everything, but he's still a top 5 athlete in the world. Why? Because his performance is so beautifully constructed. He presents it beautifully, he skates beautifully, and he projects to us and sells his performance.
How does like the judging work? Like, how does the criteria laid out? How do you remain like objective? Like, is it hard to be subjective, or is it easy to be subjective and biased?
Well, we have to be very neutral. I call myself Switzerland, sort of.
Okay.
Because there's skaters from every single club, every walk of life across the country, and we have to remain neutral and unbiased. You can't take favorites. You can't side with somebody over someone else. It's what you see that they put on the ice at that very moment, not what they did the day before, which might have been fabulous, but did they do it that day in front of you? And you have to sometimes be pretty tough with your heart. You have to say, oh, what, she just didn't have a good day today. So our goal as judges is to be very non-biased and be very neutral and just see what you observe that day.
What is the hardest part about being a judge?
I would say when you see somebody having a tough day and you unfortunately have to not reward them in their scores, and you have to give them the scores at that moment that they did that performance, but they can do better. And that's hard sometimes when you see that happen, and it's heartbreaking.
Something on a little bit different of a script here, but is there body issues for women in this? Because I think about my wife and my wife's sisters who are all dancers and the things that stemmed from there. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to speak on their experiences, but just in general, I see things like that come up later in life.
Yes.
And so when you're on a stage like that, is there body issues for women that they have to deal with?
I would say yes, and that comes from me. When I was 17, I went in the Ice Capades, and my dad had to sign my contract, by the way. How he let me go off on the road in those days when there was no ATM machines. Right. You got paid every week, and you had to go to the bank and cash in, and there's no per diem either, and you had to live on tuna fish a lot of times. But back then, we were weighed in every week.
Oh, wow.
And you had to have a set weight, and I still remember what my set weight was. And if you weren't at your set weight, you were fined.
Huh.
They don't do that anymore because they saw the ramification of doing that for many years. It really created a lot of issues for the young women, and as they matured, they started having issues with eating and created issues for them. So I do understand that pressure for athletes to beware of their bodies, their weight. And we're starting to see an issue with, as the jumps start to increase, you probably heard about the quad god, who is the American world champion who does quad jumps. You have to spin faster in the jump to do a triple or a quad jump. So the trimmer you are, the less weight you are, the less resistance, and the faster you can spin, obviously. So I think there is some pressure on athletes as they start to get into their teens and they start to mature, and how that affects their performance and their technique. One of the most famous ones, as you know, probably, who's just written a book, is Gracie Gold, who, up until about 10 years ago, we didn't see many issues with people talking about it or sharing their struggles. And as you talk about in your book, the doubt and the internal darkness is the word you mentioned on your site, which really resonated for me. And she finally admitted that she was struggling. And people before that, don't say anything, don't bring that up, nobody wants to hear about that, or don't complain. She finally admitted that she was struggling. And she was struggling with her weight. There's another famous team, I won't say who they are, that actually stepped back from nationals this year because there was so much bullying about supposedly her issues with weight. When if you saw her in person, she looks like she weighs like nothing. but on television, and there was a lot of struggle there. So they stepped back to give her a break from the doubt and the anxiety that she was suffering from. So
you said the internal darkness piece resonates with you. If you don't mind me asking, can you tell me a little bit why it resonates so well with you?
I think your phrase really struck me this morning when I was reading it. The internal darkness means so many things to not only the athlete, but performers as well, because I did transition from being an athlete to becoming an actress in New York. And that internal darkness to me is a word that came to mind was doubt and fear and not thinking you're not good enough. And I think so many athletes and so many entertainment and performers have that feeling of doubt or anxiety. And I think the more we talk about it, the more we share that we are worried, the better off we are for our mental health. And that we are human and we do make mistakes. And I think the internal darkness for me, there's some famous celebrities that have been on talk shows where they've talked about their life. And I remember one actor, a very famous actor, said, "I'm afraid tomorrow it's going to stop." So they go every night going to bed thinking it's going to end tomorrow, that their greatness or how great they are or the level they're performing at or the athlete they're at is going to stop the next day. And we just had that incident, didn't we, 2 weeks ago with a golfer, and how sad that was, that he wasn't able to get the help he needed. And for me, the doubt, as I got older, I started having some stage fright, and which stems from doubt and worry that you're going to forget something or you're not going to be as good as you were the day before. And there's many, many famous celebrities, including, I believe, Donny Osmond and other celebrities that have talked about they had stage fright and they had to step back for a little bit. So it makes you feel better than knowing that they've had it too, and not to be so hard on ourselves and that we're human and that not every performance is going to be the same. Not every game we do is going to be the same, and not to worry about the next day yet.
What worked for you in overcoming that doubt, that anxiety, that worry?
A positive mindset. I do self monologues for myself, positive imagery. I speak to myself the night before. For example, I still do some testing and figure skating myself at my age. And what I would do before I performed or before I was doing a performance or skating, the night before, I found that was when I do the monologue. And I would say things to myself so that when I woke up in the morning, I had already had that conversation with myself. And you can see it with skiers, as you know, at the top of the slope before they head down for the Olympics when they're skiing, they're already doing the entire route with their hands and their mind, and they're having that positive run instead of something bad happening. And that's what I do. The night before, I'll say, I'm going to wake up feeling great. I'm going to wake up feeling refreshed. I'm going to be centered over top of my knees, my legs, and my feet will be on the ice, but not in it. I'll be able to breathe easily. I won't feel tight in my chest. I will be able to take a nice, relaxed breaths, and I won't feel stressed. I mean, I say all of those things myself, and I tell people this. It's true. It does work. The more you do that, it really does help you. So the next the day you wake up, you are feeling better and you are focused. And I do a lot of breathing exercises, a lot of things where I will do some exercises and things before I even get to the facility so that I'm ready to go. And I think a lot of the skating athletes, that's what they do too. They'll get to the rink, an hour before, and they'll do a lot of the warm up and mindset and the focus and getting them set and ready so that when they get on the ice, by the way, they only get about 5 or 6 minutes to warm up. That's it. So you've got to be really warmed up before you actually get on the ice because you don't have time to run your entire program. You've got to just do certain bullet points as part of it. So
how important is the coaching aspect? Because when you only have 5 or 6 minutes, you have to be detailed.
Yes.
You have to dot your I's, cross your T's. You have to be ready to go. Everything has to be organized and choreographed. Right. So how important is the element of coaching, and is it noticeable when you're a judge?
Yes. Yes, I did. My simple answer is yes, and I actually wrote it down when I was coming in to see you today about how coaches can be very different. And sometimes when you are watching the athletes compete, you can almost tell sometimes which coach they're with, how prepared they are, how ready they are, how often, and you know this, how often they've rehearsed, practice. And there's an old saying even in theater as well, don't leave it in the rehearsal room. It has to be on the stage, or if you're in the training facility, it has to be in the game. And I think you see when they're with coaches that don't spend enough time off ice training or running their programs over and over again, because when they get out there, you can tell they're running out of steam and they haven't been trained. They haven't worked on their stamina enough. And sometimes the coaches may be really tough on them as they get to more of an elite level. Something that happened actually on the weekend I could share with you, I won't mention any names, but it was an elite athlete that I was watching and was with a particular coach. And came out on Saturday do one of the programs and kept coming around doing a particular jump, a very high jump for a female skater, by the way. It was a triple axel. Not many can do it. Tanya Hardin did it way long time ago, and Midori Ito and people like that. But she did it once. It was beautiful. For some reason, they had her go back and do it again. And the coach made her go do it again. I'm like, okay, you're wearing her out. In my opinion, this is me in my head watching this going, this is not good. You're wearing the person out even before they get to the performance when you only got a few minutes to get yourself prepared. Instead of seeing her do it once and the coach going, great, you're solid, you're in the pocket today, go off and do something else, had her repeat it over and over again. So guess what happened when she went out to do her performance? She blew it and fell. And I remember turning to one of the other judges said, I knew that was going to happen. I saw it coming because he wore her out. Instead of just saying, stop, you're good, move on to something else. Because I remember my dad, when I was competing in a competition with 72 skaters, and I came around and did one of my jumps, and I did it once, and I looked up in the stands. He was behind a pillar, and my dad passed away at 96, and I still think he's in a pillar behind in the rink somewhere. But he just looked at me, and he went, that's all. He nodded, stop. And I went off, did other things, and I ended up winning the competition out of 72 skaters because he just said, you're in the pocket, leave it. Don't get yourself exhausted. And then by the time you go out in the performance, now it's not there anymore. And guess what happened on Sunday? The same girl went out, was skating around, doing the same jump, over. And I'm like, oh no, here it goes again. And then she went out to do her performance, and guess what happened? She fell. And I went, why didn't he just leave her alone? So I get frustrated with some of the coaches. I really do. Going, do they really understand what that particular personality is? Do they know that person well enough to keep pushing someone like that, or saying, you know what, you're having a great day, leave it alone. You're going to be fine, you know?
Are you able to give that feedback to the coach?
No.
Why?
I don't. I think because unless somebody asks, you cannot. We're supposed to be non-biased. Remember, we're not supposed to have an opinion or tell them what to do. And sometimes they will ask us for a critique. And if somebody did ask me, maybe I could say something and say, you know what, maybe less. But at certain levels, we have to step back and just mind our P's and Q's and not get involved. That's up to the coaching team around that athlete and their family, basically. Or maybe the heads of, the U.S. figure skating can talk to people who are at a very high elite level, but no, we don't do that. We don't talk to them.
In your opinion, what separates the best figure skaters from the rest?
I believe many athletes are born with a gift, but I think it has to be developed. I think they have to be given confidence. They have to be given the tools and approach and discipline to be able to reach their full potential. And I think a lot of that is the people that surround the skater or the athlete or the performer is who believes in them and helps them achieve their dreams. So I think that's what I would share with you is sometimes you have people around that may not be the best person for them. And you have to switch coaches. As you know, a lot of times people do switch coaches. Sometimes you see them very minor little, soccer, baseball, football groups in towns. They may be a parent that really is not the best choice for a coach. They, it may not be giving the kids the best advice, but, they can do the best they can. But, yeah.
So in your own life, because you're a jack of all trades, you're in a number of different things,
Sports and entertainment.
Sports and entertainment, acting, real estate, figure skating judge. How do you build confidence and success in your own life? Like, how are you measuring it? What are you doing to build that confidence? And how are you navigating your energy into multiple different fields?
I think for me, it gets back to the get back up mentality. I think I'm a very stoic person. My dad's polio growing up. My mother passed away of breast cancer when I was little. I had to get through my teen years without her. I had the very good luck to be with coaches at the time that saw my potential, not just in figure skating, but in life, and supported me becoming an actress and going off to New York. I think they helped instill in me that I could believe in myself and that the choices I was making were good ones. I think also being very disciplined in my own personal life, just from skating, helped me transition into the world of theater, and my days in New York and going to drama school, getting the training I needed, surrounding myself with the best coaches and directors and folks that would help me get to the level that I wanted to get to.
What are some of the parallels between acting and theater and athletics? Because I think in general with athletes, something you see not all, but you see some go into acting, you see some go into TV, and there seems to be a pretty strong connection there. So what are the parallels that you've seen with acting, theater, TV in your athletic career?
I would say confidence, but focus and a belief in themselves that they can learn something new and be open to learning something new and taking direction. I don't like the word critique or criticism. I like the word direction. And the athletes that are able to transition into some kind of a performing career, or actors changing careers or transitioning, I think it really gets back to the tools that they had in their sport, the discipline, the focus, the mindset of concentration, and realizing that you're human and that you do have doubt, and that how you can overcome that is by practicing and training and surrounding yourself with people that will support you and guide you and give you positive affirmations and good support as well.
Can you talk to me a little bit more about what you mean with like focus and concentration?
I think we can get very distracted in our world today. I think, back when I started, there wasn't social media, there wasn't all those things that can distract the athletes, or things said to them that might upset them or hurt them or may not support them. I think we were luckier when we were younger. We didn't have that. You just were in your own bubble in a way. And now the world is a bubble and everybody's in it telling you what to do, or the advice to share, or criticizing you, or unfortunately the bullying that goes on too. And I think that's probably what's different for me and for today, which is hard for the athlete, is finding that ability to push things out, keep things away from them, to stay focused on themselves, and find time in their day, every day, to work on their own personal belief system, to eliminate doubt. And how they do that is finding things that make them happy, that may not have anything to do with the sport. Maybe it's learning to play piano. Maybe it's learning to, sing or something,
Something you mentioned earlier about losing your mother at a very young age. What was the emotional toll that took on you, and how did you work through that, particularly in the early stages?
Well, back in those days, there were no pink ribbons. There's no, marches and walks and things like that. It was almost a silent thing that nobody talked about. So I didn't know for a while that there was something wrong when I was young. But as it progressed and got worse, I realized something bad was happening. And I have to tell you, I've told this many, many times to young performers and young athletes when I've had time to sit with them and talk to them. I used to do that a lot on the road as an actor in New York. Skating every day gave me a place to go. It gave me a purpose. It also gave me an outlet for my grief and my emotions, and it gave me the opportunity for catharsis, to be cathartic, and to find a place to perform and get all of that angst and the grief out in a positive place, surrounded by people that cared. I think it's incredibly important for teens to have, whether it's a sport or acting or singing or dancing, whatever that is, they need that in their teens to have a place to go where they can achieve and be successful and have a place where they can also, very importantly, fail so they can learn how to get back up. And I got a medal from U.S. Figure Skating in the mail. I thought they'd sent me a book or something, and I opened up and it was a medal that said, "Get Back Up Ambassador." And I didn't get it for skating. I got it because I started to make pink ribbon pillows for patients for the oncologists and the cancer surgeons here in Las Vegas to give to their patients. And I put a little note on it, and they would give it to the patients that were either, I asked them to give the pillows to patients that may be alone or don't have family or friends to help them through it. I say, if you can, please try to give the pillows to them first. And U.S. Figure Skating found out about it. And they felt that once I got back onto the ice after I had breast cancer myself in 2020, I made sure that they knew about the pillows that we were doing, and somebody had let them know and created an article. And all of a sudden in the mail, I got a medal for me. So I didn't win a gold medal at the Olympics, but the medal, being a Get Up ambassador, means more to me than an Olympic gold medal. So.
Talk to me a little bit about your own experience with breast cancer, having known that you lost your mother to that. What were some of the emotions that you felt, and what was your way of dealing with those emotions and feelings?
Well, one of the things that was the hardest for me was my two older brothers that I loved very much up in Toronto. I had to actually call them and tell them, and that was the hardest thing for me to do because I thought I dodged the bullet. I thought I was fine and I was going to be fine, and having to tell them first. The good news was my dad, which would have really just killed him. It would have been awful for him. Had actually passed away at 96, a few months before I'd gotten the diagnosis. So interesting enough, he never knew, and which was a good thing. My brothers were very, of course, shocked and concerned. And what I did, I really dove into doing everything I could about learning about it, being disciplined, about staying healthy. I got back on the ice as fast as I could. And I remember the day that I put my skates back on and got back on the ice after I had my surgery, and the mental weight off of me. And I felt like a weight had come off my shoulders too, that I got back on the ice and was able to skate again, feeling that wind through my hair. And I felt like I was free from cancer, which I was now. I'm very, very blessed. So that's how I kind of dealt with it, was to stay focused, busy, and surrounded by people that cared and supported me.
What were some of the daily habits that you developed that kept you positive, or at least moving forward throughout this process?
I think what a lot of athletes do and a lot of performers do, I kept a daily journal. I also surrounded myself with some really cool books that people had written, so I would make sure I read every day. And one book, Samantha Carr, that you know about this book, it's called The Badass Quotes from Famous Women. And so I would open it up and I would flip through a page and point at one, and I'm like, oh, today it's this one. Okay, good. So kind of books like that really were fun. It made me smile every day, and it got me through the day. So it was definitely books. It was staying focused. I had my husband and I love him dearly, has been incredibly supportive and loving, and we have two crazy golden retrievers. At the time we did. And now we have a rescue Great Pyrenees who's the size of this table, I think. So that's what kept me busy, was taking them out. And we have a cabin up in near Zion National Park, and going up and walking through nature and surrounding myself with peace and tranquility too was very important.
What was the biggest lesson that you took from that you're able to still apply to this day?
You can control a lot of your life, a lot of your days. Some things in your health you can't, like my mother couldn't. My dad couldn't with polio. I think it also made me very resilient, and that because what I'd gone through as a competitive skater, because I've been an actress in New York, I think I handled the diagnosis really well compared to other people. I kind of took it in stride in a way, and I said, okay, this is what I've got. I have to cope, just like when I was an athlete having a bad performance or failing a test, and I think that's helped me with the athletes when they've taken tests as me as a judge. I'm like, okay, it wasn't today, but it will be tomorrow, and everything will be okay tomorrow. And I kept that mindset for myself as I transitioned through the whole recovery process.
Something you talked a little bit about earlier is having that outlet and using that sport to be that outlet. Mm-hmm. But sometimes in my own experience, because sports were always my outlet, right, when I would have bad performances, when I would have bad practices, and that's my escape. It's like a double whammy. Mm-hmm. So did you experience that as well? And when you experienced it, if you did, how did you use or find a third outlet that allowed you to decompress and learn through the failures of sport?
I think I was very blessed because I had started to transition with, as a competitive athlete. I also did track and field in school. And so I had that outlet to also start looking at doing a 100-meter run, the 200-meter run. I did the hurdles. I did the anchor of the relay. And being a part of a team, being a skater, as you know, you're out there by yourself.
Yes.
Where when I was a part of the track team, I was about a team, and I really enjoyed being a part of that. And I was pretty good, actually. I enjoyed being outside because most of the time I was inside skating, freezing my butt off. And I think it gave me an outlet for doing something different and finding other ways to achieve success. And it helped me with stamina. It helped me with being disciplined and focused on how to get better on those particular sports as well. I think for athletes or performers, maybe learning another instrument, and it's actually surprised people. A lot of performers who are singers that I've worked with on Broadway actually didn't know how to read music. I would be like, that'll be like one of the first things I would want to do is, okay, I want to learn how to play the piano and how to read music. And I want to learn how to play an instrument. I was very blessed that I played piano since I was about 4 or 5. So I was lucky that way. So when I would do Broadway shows, I was able to read and sight read the music. And that was a great skill to have. And I think it helped me in the long run being successful in New York when I was an actress there.
Talk to me a little bit about your experiences as an actress. Are there any cool, unique stories
Yes.
that you have?
Yes.
Because you hear so many things about theater in Hollywood, so I'm very interested in what was a very cool or unique experience for you.
Two at the top of my head, which one's actually comes from my sports background. My first Broadway show was Starlight Express on Broadway, the original cast, and it was, created and written by Andrew Lloyd Webber. And one of the reasons I know I was able to do really well on that show and how I got cast in the original cast because I had been a figure skater. And I was able to transition from blades, which are very thin, to rollers, at the old rollers, which was the 4, not the inline skating. And I was cast because I was really good at being able to skate and sing at the same time. And so that was a big cool thing to do. And we had to bring in special coaches to teach us how to roller skate. And I was one of the better ones, so I helped the other dancers who were from Cats and other Broadway shows as we went through rehearsals. And it was really tough on the dancers because they weren't used to, and the falls they would have. You'd be standing next to them, and then they all of a sudden the wheels went out from under them. Kaboom! And you're like, oh, sorry. So that would be one thing, is my skills from being an athlete and a skater helped me actually become an actress on Broadway in my very first show. And they built this whole bowl with bridges, and you had to be in top physical condition. I was in the best shape of my entire life doing that show. And it was a lot of fun to do it. And the other one, I would say that was one of my favorite things to do. I got to do a Broadway show called Damn Yankees with Jerry Lewis. Yes, Jerry Lewis, the movie star. And it was one of the most happy moments of my life working with him, and all of us just adored him. I know some people have stories like any celebrity have that are negative, but every day was a joy to work with him, and so funny. He was so funny. We would sit in the wings watching him every performance because every performance he did was a little bit different. Even though it was a Broadway show and he had to be the same, he would do little things a lot of times. And he would come out as this fireman in one scene, and do little things in it that would make other people laugh on stage. And when I was leaving the show, it was time for me to move on. We used to like to get back at him and do funny things to him. And if everybody knows Jerry from the telethon, there was a caricature of his face that you probably all know is very famous. And we had lots of stickers. So he was put his sticker of his face everywhere in the theaters as we went around the country. And so I borrowed some of the stickers, and I put on my robe in the wings. And this is not for kids, right? I mean, I could talk about
whoever. It's okay.
Okay, just want to make sure. But I don't say anything naughty. But anyway, so I stood in the wings, and I put his decals on my chest And I stood in the wings, and there's a moment where Jerry would be on stage talking. He would do a take to the audience, and then he would look stage right into the wings at all of us laughing in the wings, and he would go back to look at the audience. Well, so when every night he would do the same thing. So I knew when he would go look into the wing. So he would do this funny comment, and then he would turn to look in the wing, and I opened my robe with my decals on my chest of him. And he looked into the wings, and he went, blah, 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 blah. Like that. And he died laughing because he saw what I had done. And everybody was in the other side of the wings watching what happened, and they were laughing so hard. And that was my last performance. So it was my way of saying, thanks, Jerry, for a wonderful time, and had a blast. And he did something really amazing that night. It was my last performance before I left the tour. And he has all the ball players from the baseball team and damn Yankees, right? And they do this little dance in the bow with all the guys. And all of a sudden, Jerry stepped forward, stopped the orchestra and the conductor, and said, one of our original cast members is leaving today, and I'd like to bring her forward. And I cannot tell you that I swear when he brought me forward and said goodbye to me, I said, if I die right now, this is one of the most amazing moments in my entire life that I'll never forget. So that's a really cool story.
No, that is
working with him. He was a hoot.
That's really awesome. That is really cool.
He was a great guy.
In each stage of your life, when you've moved on from skating or acting, what were those transitions like for you? Was it hard to move on? Was it easy? Was it time where you knew it was time to move on?
I think the skating one was actually pre-planned for me, which was a wonderful thing. Back in the day, I think they're starting to do it now, but back in the day, if you knew you weren't making the big leagues in skating, back in those days, your coaches would talk to you when you got to about 15, 16 years old or so. They'd say, hey, have you thought about going into a show, an ice show at the time, which was Ice Follies and Ice Capage, which was all the Olympic skaters would go in, like Peggy Fleming and Dorothy Hamill and folks like that. And so I knew when I was getting that age after my mother passed away, about 15, 16, in those days, that was kind of it. You 16, 17, 18 was about it. And that you would go on in your life, or you would go off into an ice show. Well, I knew people that were in the ice show, and my coach was very well known by Ice Capades. In fact, he had a lot of other athletes who were in the shows already, and he got set up. He told my dad it was okay, that he could trust them to let me go off on the road at 17. So I was very lucky to have a transition from competitive figure skating into performing as a skater and still having a career and having a life in skating where I was actually performing, which I loved, and I was paid to do it. And it got me away from home, and I learned how to be disciplined because we had to do 9 to 12 shows a week. You couldn't be sick. You couldn't call in sick. You would have to go out there whether you felt like it or not, get back up. Mentality again, where you performed and you were in a team of people. There was 32 girls in that line, and you all had to hold on to each other at certain points, and they relied on you. And I relied on them, and you knew who supported you and was there to help you through the production and the discipline of doing all of those shows every single day. So what was your day like? When did you eat to get ready for the shows that night? Or there was 3 shows on a Saturday. That was great training for me, so that when I did come back off the road of doing the ice shows, also we got weighed in every week, and we had to have a set weight, as we mentioned earlier. But because I was on the road looking at different shows, I got back to Toronto, and I started to transition into, maybe I'd like to be an actress. I really enjoyed performing. So I went back to someone I had some singing lessons in my teens for fun. And I went to see her, and she said, I work at this theater in Toronto, and they're going to be doing The Sound of Music, and I think you'd be great to do that, because it was also the age where it was, I kid you not, it was a dinner theater. And I could also not only play one of the Von Trapp kids, I was also 18 at the time, so I could serve alcohol to the dinner theater. So I would be in the show, and then at intermission rush out and give the people their dessert or their drinks or whatever. I'd go back up on the stage. So talk about discipline and focus, that I would be doing a show and singing, rehearsing, and then having to make a living and get tips from people who are watching the show. So that's how I got started, was doing dinner theater in Toronto as an actress. And I realized that was great, but I wanted more. I wanted more training. At the time, there wasn't really any drama or theater schools at the time in Toronto. And the only place you could go was New York. So I got myself on a plane at like 18 or 19. I flew to New York and I auditioned for drama schools, and I auditioned and I got accepted. So the next thing you know, I'm packing up, and I ended up going to New York, went to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts in New York, which is the school of Robert Redford, Anne Hathaway, Paul Root, a lot of people. And I actually got a scholarship because I was Canadian. I couldn't get a student loan. So I ended up getting scholarships from the Grace Kelly Foundation and the Oscar Hammerstein Foundation, which was really pretty cool. And that's how I got started in acting in New York, because I wanted more training. I wanted to perfect my craft. And talk about discipline and focus. You had to be accepted into the second year, and then to be in the production company, and then agents coming to watch your performances. So I think all of this, the sports and entertainment, all stem from me being a little figure skater in Canada and transitioning me to a career in theater in New York. It's all about being an athlete. Made that all happen, I think.
Tell me a little bit more and give me a little bit more insight to the discipline on your day-to-day, because not easy what you did. So what did your day-to-day look like? Could you give us
in New York?
Or just in general, the most successful parts of your life, what does your discipline look like?
I think it was getting up every day. Like, for example, in New York, going to drama school obviously was all day, and your day was made up of movement classes, speech classes, acting classes, technique classes, all of those things that you had. And then you would be in 2 productions at the same time, learning all of the scripts, your memorization skills, the focus and discipline to do that, learning music, learning entire scores of music or shows. I did a lot of Shakespeare, so I had to learn the entire book of Shakespeare. That wasn't good enough for me, so I got on a plane and I went to London, and I went to one of the drama schools in London to be better at being a Shakespearean actress too. I think all of that comes from my childhood and being focused and disciplined to know that if I wanted to be a success, I had to work really hard, and I had to study my craft and get better every single day. So after I was out of drama school, I would get up in the morning and I would warm up my voice. I would learn a new song. I would make a song better. I would go for singing lessons. I would go to a musical director who would make the songs suit my personality. So when I went in for an audition, I had different songs I could use for different auditions that were good for me to sing. And, like, you obviously wouldn't want to sing the same song for a rock and roll musical as you would for like My Fair Lady or something like that. So I would surround myself with different types of coaches who were skilled at different things. And then I would go off to dance classes so that I could pick up the choreography on Broadway. And let me tell you, it's pretty tough. Those choreographers are pretty amazing and difficult. And I wasn't a dancer. I was a good person that moved really well and could sing really well. So I had to get better at doing those things. One time I was at one of the Broadway theaters, and they were having rehearsals for a musical called Dancing with Bob Fosse. And I was down the hall auditioning for an ABC TV movie of the week, and I had a guitar with me, and I didn't play guitar. So I knew I had this audition coming up. So a couple of weeks before the audition, I went out and rented a guitar and learned 2 songs, because thankfully I played piano and I understood chords. So I self-taught myself how to play 2 pieces of music on a guitar and memorize the chords so that I could go in and sing something, even though I couldn't really play the guitar. But it was good enough for the audition. And I remember sitting outside the room with the guitar, and out came Bob Fosse, the famous Bob Fosse. And he looked at me and said, "Hey, kid, what are you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm auditioning for a TV program." "Good for you. Good luck." It was really cool. And he was kind of a rogue, He was like, kind of like the movie, all that jazz. And then when I finished, I went back down the hall, and he was in the other room with all of these famous dancers and rehearsing. And he looked at me and he gave me a big wink. So that was pretty cool. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so I think not being afraid to learn something new, and not being afraid to know that you don't know something. I think a lot of people are afraid to say they don't know something. And I think a lot of athletes or a lot of performers need to say, "You know what, I don't know how to do this, but I will next week. Or I will figure out how to learn that and develop that skill so that I'm more employable."
It's the power of yet, saying, "Yes. I don't know how to do this yet. Or I'm not the best in
the
world yet."
I love that. Yes.
Yes,
that's great.
Yet is a word.
I don't know how to do it now, but I will do it soon,
Right.
but I don't know it yet. I love that.
Yeah, so that's a word that I've taken into my own vocabulary that has made a world of a difference because it allows me to be truthful and honest.
Yeah.
Because I'm not the best at everything that I want to be yet, but I can be.
Yes.
It's going to take time.
And I think that's what's great, what you said about your daughter. I mean, if you can share that with her, which I bet you do,
Yes.
that she knows that, and she knows that she can get better next week. She doesn't know something this week, but she will know how to play that piece next week, or how to do that dance next week, or work on her pirouettes, or whatever that is that she's working on, and that she won't suffer the anxiety or the doubt about learning a new skill. That it's okay that she doesn't know how to do something. I think sometimes when I'm judging, I see that a little bit where the skaters have doubt and are afraid to do something. And one of the things that I noticed over the last 3 or 4 years, 5 years, is I noticed skaters that are afraid to fall. Instead of getting it out of the way, learning how to fall, and not worried about it, because how are you going to develop that new skill if you won't fall? Because you will fall. Like the girl, she kept falling, but she also could do it, And I think sometimes they're afraid to fall, and because they're afraid to get back up again,
There's a million things I do wrong as a parent. But the one thing, and it's applicable to all levels of sports, truly, and it brings me immense joy with my daughter. But one thing, we're a big sports family, naturally.
Yeah.
She has like her little toy hoop, and she's always shooting hoops. And one thing that I've always tried to teach her is, I don't care if you make it or miss, just keep trying. I say, just keep trying and trying. And there's few things that bring me as much joy as when she'll miss like 3 in a row and then finally make one. And she gets all excited and she'll turn to me and say, Dad, I just tried. And it makes me so happy because I know how hard it was for me as an athlete, because you become fixated on outcomes.
Right. Yes. Instead of the process.
Right.
Right.
And so for me, it was always, I was a very talented athlete. I was very smart as well growing up. And I became obsessed with those things. And when it came time to failure, I would go and look for easier challenges so I could feel that reward of easy wins. And so I could praise myself instead of falling in love with the challenge, falling in love with keep trying, because eventually you're going to figure it out. But if you're constantly focused on the praise or being told you're smart or being told you're athletic, you're going to look for easy wins. And in the long run, you're going to get passed up by the person who just kept being relentless.
Yes.
Regardless of failure, regardless of success, they were just relentless. And so that's what I'm really trying to teach with my kids, is that relentless effort piece through falling in love with just keep trying.
Right.
Just get back up. You can feel pain. Just get back up.
I see that a lot in I think, Hollywood, where people get stuck in some kind of image of themselves, and they're afraid to break out of that mold and to challenge themselves because of that fear or doubt that somebody will judge them. So they won't do anything new. And they're surrounded by people patting them on the head and saying how great they are, or giving them another pill, or giving them another thing that doesn't challenge them or allow them to change or be better. And one of the heartbreaking ones, because we're in Vegas, that always made me so sad, was that Elvis never really got to his full potential as an actor because of Parker not allowing him to do other things. And there was something about him that was really, truly vulnerable and wonderful about some of the films that you've seen that he was in, but he never got a chance to really fulfill that. And that was one of those things that always made me sad, is that I think if he had been allowed to really spread his wings and really try new things, that how different his life might have been, but unfortunately he surrounded himself with people that just, patted him on the head and unfortunately gave him what he wanted, which was not healthy or good for him. The same thing with Marilyn Monroe and other people. I think that would be something that young actors today, or young athletes today, and whether it's in New York as an actor or in Hollywood, is stop surrounding yourself with people that will give you what you want and not challenge you. Do something different. Let's say you're on a TV show or something, go off to London and do Shakespeare, or go learn another, an instrument, or go learn how to do something different. challenge yourself, become a director, be a writer, do something different and not just get stuck in a mold. And I think that's the greatest gift and advice we can give the next generation and your daughter and other young athletes and performers too.
Yeah, stop surrounding yourself with yes men or yes women.
Yes.
Surround yourself with people who are...
No more yeses. It's okay to say no.
Surround yourself with people who give you honest feedback, good and bad, who are constantly pushing the envelope of what's next. It leads me to a question. It's something you said earlier that, is a powerful statement, is I wanted more. I wanted more for myself. I hold myself to a higher standard. In that same breath, though, it's...
pressure.
And when is enough? Like, right. I think about that, and when I try and define the different areas of my life of what success looks like what is enough and what makes me fulfilled and when am I content or satisfied but always striving to do more, it's how do you measure that in your life? How do you measure I want more versus I'm grateful for what I have?
That's a really good question. I don't think I've been asked that before. I've been very blessed that I've been able to transition from being a competitive athlete to being in a show and then going, okay, that was good. And now I want to go into becoming an actress. Okay, that's okay. I need to go to school and get training. Oh, okay. Well, now I need to actually become a professional actress and get paid to do what I do. And then I was lucky to get a Broadway show, which millions of people never get a dream come true like that, which I got to have. I guess I look at my life and I've hit the top many times, and I'm kind of shocked at that's actually happened to me, where I didn't just become an actress, but I was an actress on Broadway, and I didn't just come to Vegas or to London. I actually worked on London, or I came here to Vegas and I was a leading lady in a show in the Strip, and I never saw that happening either. That was a crazy story. And then getting back into the sport because I was skating and I saw a need in Vegas, which is a kind of crazy story. How I became a U.S. figure skating judge was that I was working on a dance, finishing up a dance, and the coach here said, well, we'll arrange for a test day. And I said, okay, when is that going to happen? And he said, well, we'll have to fly in the judges. And I said, why? He said, because we don't have any. I went, in Vegas, we're not like Chicago or New York or some of the big cities, right? So I don't even know how I went out. I don't remember going on U.S. figure skating, but you kind of know how I am now. Well, I want to go do that now too. So I signed up, and the next thing you know, they gave me what they call a mentor to become a U.S. figure skating judge. And I started the process of becoming that, trial judging at events and competitions and things. And the next thing you know, I got my first appointment, and then I got my second appointment, and now I'm a gold judge. And I think now I'm at that level now too. So I guess a good question that you just presented to me was, now what? And I kind of do that every day going, okay, now what? And yesterday at the competition in Salt Lake, I kind of had that moment where I'm good. I think I'm good at my age. And I think I've reached the level of that many people never dream of achieving. And now I guess for me is, now what do I do? Well, now they're having me mentor young folks that would like to become a U.S. figure skating judge. And how do they become a judge? So now I'm a mentor that the other people were mentors for me. So now I get to be a mentor. And now I have young agents. I'm actually teaching a class tomorrow in real estate where I'm teaching a class for new agents. So I feel I'm becoming a supportive advocate or an instructor or a mentor for people. And that brings me a lot of joy. Because I could be, who knows, it could be the next person, could be the next Broadway performer or next athlete or judge. Like one of the judges that I was on panels with yesterday, there was a little boy up in Salt Lake that everybody thought was really, really talented, and they thought he had some great talent. And it turned out that little boy was Nathan Chen, who became the Olympic gold medalist. So you never know what little person that's smiling up at you that you're going to support and tell them they're doing great and keep going and achieve their dreams and support them in that way.
It's like you begin to question, it's like, how many more examples do I need to suggest, though, that I am different, that I am a high achiever, that I've achieved things that other people could never have achieved. And it's this balance between the cognitive recognition of, I should keep pushing myself. I can do great things. I can keep growing, but then also having that grateful gratitude attitude. I didn't mean to rhyme there, but the
it's
gratitude.
True. It is. Yeah. It's true because I think it makes me a better person if I'm able to share and support other people too. I think all of the life skills and the lessons I've learned and the ups and downs and the bad things that happened to me or the things that didn't work out for me, I can also share that too. That's part of life. And I think if people just sit back and not do anything, that's so sad to me. And I've had actually friends say to me, gee, now you're doing this? Oh, how come you're doing that? Wow, you're so busy. And I'm like, yeah.
It's like a game. It becomes a game. It's like, what more can I do? What more can I push myself?
We have one life, and live it and enjoy everything, so that you feel like you didn't leave something on the table. You didn't leave a stone unturned. You tried everything that you thought you wanted to do. Will I ever jump out of a plane? No, I'm afraid of heights. Never. There's some things I will never do. Right, and there's some things that I still wish. Oh, I might like to learn how to do that next.
So what are you most excited about coming next with Keller Williams Sports and Entertainment, your roles in real estate, your role in TV? What are you most excited about what's coming next?
One of the things with sports and entertainment is helping all of these athletes, not only with housing that we help them with, or we're also adding on to the division is the transition for the athletes to other careers besides being an athlete. Or a performer is how can we help them transition into investing or controlling real estate or becoming a real estate agent and developing another career for themselves. I think that's one of the wonderful things I love about the sports and entertainment division. One of the other things I'm really excited about is being the Las Vegas TV host of this fabulous streaming program that's across the country in major cities and smaller cities too, where we're almost an ambassador for our city. And it's not a reality program. It really celebrates the people who live here, work here, make a difference. The entrepreneurs, the businesses, and the folks that make Vegas, for me, really fun and exciting. So I'm really looking forward to that as something. This just happened the last couple months. And I think me being an athlete, me being a performer made me able to make that transition to being on camera and being a host and having a lot of fun with it. So I'm looking forward to that this year.
Awesome. Well, I can't thank you enough for coming on. It means a lot to me. If people want to reach out to you, they want to find you, if you have anything to promote in particular, please take the next time to do so.
Well, I will, but I want to thank Samantha Card and I want to thank Brittany Ezell for the opportunity to get to spend time with you. And I really want to thank you for inviting me on your podcast. It's been so much fun.
Oh, that means a lot, and it's been a blast. I've loved the conversation. You've been a phenomenal guest.
Oh, thank you very much, Colin. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Listeners, make sure to tune in next week. Like, rate, subscribe. Check us out at athletic42.com. Thank you again.